It's April 11th, 2015. So, anyway, I was just explaining that Alvaro Pardo raped me, and he was part of this government group that had coordinated how they were going to rape me in the future, and by intimidating me and telling me that they were going to kill me and torturing me if I tried to resist. So he did that. And I remember thinking as I was there when he did that, I remember just thinking, I hate him. I hate him. And I hated him because that was the same response that I had when I was a preteen and the United States government was doing that to me repeatedly. I hated every single individual who did that to me. I hated them. I would pray quietly to myself in my own mind. Inwardly, I'd pray, God, curse them. God, do something to them. Pay them back for what they did to me. And I hated them. And I was very sure that God hated them. I thought, what kind of person thinks that they're going to find favor in God's eyes? Who does that? And who's part of this kind of a group that just maliciously rapes me repeatedly and makes fun of me? Wants me to look like I'm consenting to some of this and I'm part of their group. And at one point they had even tried to say, you know, they would lie to me and even glam it up. Like when I was a kid, they even said to me one time after rehearsing this same thing that they'd done to me when I was younger, over and over and over. At one point they said, now don't worry about anything because actually we're going to try to do something good to help you from this. And they would come up with all kinds of lies, you know, just to sometimes keep me from telling anyone what was going on. And that was when I was older, because what they would first do is if I tried to tell someone, they would test me. They would say that, okay, we have a cop on the phone, and or if I called 911, they would get a cop to call back that they knew. And then as soon as someone showed up, I was getting beat up. So they basically had this whole idea of my attempt to call for help. They had that backfire against me a number of times, so that anytime I tried calling for help, even through a normal public channel of calling for help, like such as 911 to get help, and then having a cop come to the door, that kind of a thing. The government was constantly putting a corrupt cop or officer in the pathway so that he could make a beeline to the place and beat me up and threaten me with a gun and with the other individuals. And then they would all clobber me basically and torture me. And then they get out the electrocution head brace, and sometimes the cop would stand there and watch and help put this electrocution head brace, this metal head brace on my head that conducted electricity to it. And so they did that so many times to me that they made it very clear that their message was, if you're in this situation and you think you're going to try to call for help, you see how this is going to backfire against you, because we are the government and you have no way out at all. And so then from there, they were then trying to make themselves sound like they were actually good people. And they also said Mike Middleton was involved in some of that. He actually showed up for some of the training for that form of rape against me. And then Alvaro's cousin, Omar, who worked in an architectural firm supposedly in the same building as the U.S. Army, well, he knew and was friends with Carol Middleton. So somehow the Middletons were connected to this group. And so the other thing that they would do is they basically forced me to pretend like we're all friends. Now everything's fine afterwards. And like they would rape me and then want me to act like nothing bad had happened and pretend like we're all getting along and that kind of thing. And they did that a number of times. And if I didn't act Like if I didn't put up a good enough act and did not cover up any kind of hatred or feeling of loathing or crying. If I dared cry, I was getting beat up and electrocuted. So I was being forced to have no reaction that would show I was distressed from what they did to me. And again, it was part of their method of how they were going to facilitate rape against me and then make it look like I was consenting to it and like they did nothing wrong. And so probably in that situation too is probably a hidden camera somewhere. They probably videotaped it. And I'm quite sure that anytime I would have said something about my being raped, they could have shown the videotape and said, oh no, look, she just went along with it. She's not crying afterwards, she's acting friendly. And that kind of thing. And that's what they were forcing me to do. And, you know, I was being deprived of food. Sometimes I wouldn't eat for a week. Literally, I'd have no food. And on top of being tortured and everything. And they were constantly saying, one of these times, this gun to your head is going to be for real. And so if you want to live, and you don't want to die, then you'd better just do what we told you to do. So that is something that, as I just explained, that the Middleton family actually flew out from the United Kingdom, you know, out from England to participate in. And I saw the Middletons in the United States on more than one occasion because they did work with United States intelligence, and I believe that they are part of the United States intelligence. And I saw them several times in the U.S. I saw them a lot more when I was in England because I got trafficked over there. I was being hidden and then babysat by them and watched by them, and I was being programmed and tortured by them too. And you know, the Middletons are supposedly like some church-going family, with one of them having at least one of them having Jewish roots or something. But they were part of the same kinds of groups that tortured and raped little girls, little kids. And they had a problem with me before they even had all their kids. You know, there were maybe a couple of times where it seemed like maybe one of them was decent to me and didn't harm me. But, you know, one of them could actually act decent to me, and like they weren't the worst of the worst individuals. And then the other one, and then they might act like that after the other one had been basically whitewashing me by torturing me with the electrocution head brace all day at the house. And sometimes then maybe Carol would act real, like nice and act kind of sad about doing something to me or something happening. But then the other one, then Mike would drive me off to Sandhurst, and I'd get beat up and tortured. So I was getting really sick of the smell of Mike's coffee, because he would drink coffee while he was in his car. And he would take off in the morning, he always had coffee in the car. Anytime I was in the car with him, he did. And he wasn't a tea drinker, at least not when he was driving. And I was getting really nauseous because I was getting ultrasounded every time I was in the car with him, and so that level of pain was really painful. And then I would smell the smell of his coffee in his car, and it just made me feel like throwing up. I felt sick. And some of the individuals at Sandhurst, you know, a lot of these military people, they would torture me, and they'd have like coffee and donuts in the room, and they'd be eating coffee and donuts, like pop shop type stuff, while they were while they were frying my brain, basically, and trying to program me. They also, they raped me over there in England. So anyway, that is how I met Alvaro. And then he decided to try to coerce me into, quote-unquote, getting engaged, which was the next attempt of the United States government to get away with their criminal gang rape of me.